Season 11, Episode 15, On Target Artifact and Feature Analysis. In last night's episode, On Target, we begin at the southeast corner of the swamp, where Dr. Ian Spooner, Rick Lagina and Jack Begley are inspecting the newly found boulder that resembles the stones of Nolan's Cross. Dr. Spooner remarks that the smaller stones around the boulder seem to be very suspicious because of the angularity of the rocks. He states that these stones look to have been deposited by humans and not a natural formation. He believes that they are not from the shore, but from a deeper excavation, possibly from the money pit. He suggests they continue working in the area, focusing on the stone road and ramp area, and also look very closely at the shoreline to provide more clues. We are then taken to Halifax, where Doug Crowell and Scott Barlow visit Joe Landry at the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design's print shop and bindery, also known as Dawson Print Shop. They bring the leather boot shoe that was recently found at the southeast corner of the swamp by the Stone Road feature. Joe inspects the piece and mentions that it's hand-stitched and appears to be a gentleman's boot. He says that the leather is vegetable tanned, which is the earliest tannage. He believes the artifact is from the late 1600s to early 1700s. He believes it may have been an officer's boot and mentioned it looked like French work. It was then brought up that several countries are suspected of being involved with Oak Island, and Joe stated it could have been European from several sources. Keep in mind that the area that includes Oak Island was controlled by the French in the late 1600s through early 1700s time period. The scene shifts to the war room, where Oak Island researcher and author Christopher Morford visits the Oak Island team to discuss his research regarding Nolan's Cross and the menorah. Christopher explains that he believes that the Nolan's Cross alignment was created by the Knights Templars that indicates where the menorah was placed on Oak Island, specifically the garden shaft area. He believes that Nolan's Cross is aligned with Jerusalem and that Oak Island represented New Jerusalem. Chris explains that he believes the Knights Templar, or their descendants, mapped this area using cone C, cone A, and two drilled stones that lead to the garden shaft. This is where he believes the menorah was kept. The team decides to check the measurements that Christopher suggests in more detail. We then move to the shoreline on Tom Nolan's property at Cone C of Nolan's Cross. Surveyor Steve Guptill, Tom Nolan and Rick Lagina begin their tracking and measurements based on Christopher Morford's presentation. They begin at Cone C and walk the Nolan property over the first drilled stone. They take measurements and proceed across the property to Cone A. Again, they record the data and move on to the second drilled stone. Steve mentions that at this point they are halfway between Cone C and the garden shaft area. The team then traverses the rest of the way to their end target. They measure the end point near the garden shaft. While the end point doesn't hit the garden shaft directly, it does hit the proposed tunnel that runs beneath the area. The team remarks that the measurement is pretty darn close to the shaft. Our analysis concludes at the swamp, where metal detectorist Gary Drayton and Jack Begley are working through the spoils when they discover a very large tree stump. Jack remarks that it's interesting to find these trees have grown in the swamp, which suggests the swamp wasn't always there. A little later, Rick joins them as they move towards the middle of the area, because a recent storm caused flooding. At this location, more tree stumps are found. In inspecting the stumps, it's noted they look axe-cut, and there's speculation that it was for the construction of the money pit. Keep in mind that Oak Island has a history of being used for logging, so finding cut trees also fits into the established history of the island. At the end of the episode at the garden shaft, it's mentioned that the wood at the bottom seems to be made from round timbers, which suggests an older construction. Until next week's episode. Good day from the Compendium, Daniel and Charlotte.